we know that going to the dentist can be a painful experience. You know that, I know that, we all know that. And yet, a turn-of-the-century doctor from New Brunswick became a millionaire by telling his clients variations on the theme, "This won't hurt a bit." Well, Peter Pronich is a dentist, a modern-day dentist. He's had a long-time fascination with the life of this gentleman whose name was Edgar Randolph Parker, but he was better known as Painless Parker. And we've got Peter Pronich in our Halifax studio right now. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Arthur. How are you?
I'm good. I want to find out more about this fella you've written about. Parker was relatively famous around here because he had a clinic on Hastings Street in Vancouver, but he didn't just work in Vancouver, did he?
No, he didn't. He had, at that time, about 48 clinics up and down the West Coast. And Painless was his real name. In 1915, September 15th, and we have the legal documents attesting to his legal name change from Edgar Randolph Parker, as you introduced him, to Painless Parker. So he
could actually sign a check, Painless Parker.
He could. He could.
Well, Peter, no offense, but most of the dentists I've known have been kind of shy, retiring people. This does not sound like Painless Parker at all.
No, but that's the true. That's true. We really are a quiet, gentle person. You know that. I don't understand where you get this idea of dentists being painful. Gee, I wake up in the morning and look in the mirror. Other than just having some beard to shave off, I look pretty normal. But no, true. The reputation of dentists is usually one that is such that it's associated with painful experiences. Dentistry, unfortunately, has been equated many times to the most sophisticated form of dental torture. That was true, perhaps, quite a few years ago. Not so much at the present time.
Well, 3 months ago, I think, but never mind.
3 months ago, yes.
No, to be serious for a second, now, when did Painless make the switch from normal dentist to, I guess you'd have to call him a dental renegade?
Well, that happened in 1892. He had graduated from dental school, finally. He had gone to 2 dental schools. The first one he was kicked out of because he was practicing as a dentist while still being a student. And then he finally got into the Philadelphia Dental College, and he graduated from there, went to a place called St. Martin's, New Brunswick, and 3 months he waited for a patient. He had fancy signs made, and one of those signs was stolen and put on the town outhouse. So, that was how they considered him at that particular stage. He happened to sit and talk with a chemist by the name of George Mallory. And the two of them sat down and tried to discuss why people weren't going to dentists. And they realized at that time there were 2 reasons. First of all was people's perception of the pain associated with dentistry, which was psychological, and then the physical part. When you got to the dentist, it was painful. So,
yeah,
it's true.
So basically, it comes down to they didn't go because it hurts.
That's right. And he decided that he was going to try to do something about it. So first of all, he and George Mallory got together and they concocted a very early anesthetic, which he called hydrocaine. Similar to the present Novocaine and all the anesthetics that are used in dentistry, but it was a very rough form. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. In fact, his daughter, Jane Hewson, who's still alive, she's going to be 95 this year, remembers about her mother making up the anesthetic when they moved to California. And she said it had a terrible stench and the whole house just stunk. But she knew that Mom was up there mixing up the stuff for Dad to use.
Right.
And they had it at that time in little bottles, and they would take and draw it out with a horse syringe. You know how big those things are.
Holy smoke!
You had to be really strong and stalwart just to have that done.
Yeah.
So anyway, they went to.
Was it injected with a horse syringe?
Yes. Well, in fact, how they started it, and worked really great. We found, I believe, the article that he used in Dental Journal to mix up this concoction, and they injected it into the dog first. The pet, he lived, so then they injected into each other, being true scientists, and then they proceeded to use scalpels and cut their gums in the area, and they found it really didn't hurt. So, he left St. Martin's, very disillusioned with the ethical type of dentistry, and went to St. Hampton, New Brunswick, where he decided to stage his first outdoor shows.
Outdoor shows?
Outdoor shows.
Now, this isn't the circus we're talking about. He's going to pull teeth outside?
Exactly. This was his very first beginning. And he said, if the people won't come to me, I'll go to the people. And I'll appeal to them on the level they understand. They love outdoor experiences. In fact, he borrowed the old trolley wagon that they hauled luggage from the trains. And that was his first stage. He borrowed a kerosene lamp and lit that, and gathered a group of people around by blowing on a dinner trumpet. And when he got enough people together, he then started to expound the virtues of dentistry. He watched the minister, and he thought to himself, well, if the minister can strike fear into people's hearts with stories about fire and brimstone, they certainly would understand dentistry, because everybody's had a toothache. And he says, I've got something real to deal with. So he used that line. He perfected a sermon, and he went up there and started to tell people that they've got to look after their teeth. And before too long, people were coming to him, and they wanted their teeth taken out right then and there. So he would find, someone with some teeth in their mouth, something that would be quite easy. He started to use his hydrocaine, but he ran out of it after the 7th patient. Now, he did 25 patients that first night.
So what happened to the other 18 people?
Hey, they all said he was painless.
How did he pull that off?
Well, persuasion. Perception and reality. The perception was there was no pain. Reality may have said that there was pain, but he said there was no pain, and he talked him out of it. He also decided to get very cocky, and so he said, I'll give $5, and $5 in 1892 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
For anybody who felt pain. So if anybody felt pain, he certainly talked them out of it very quickly.
Did he have any backup? Like supposing I had sat in a chair and I started to yell, what would he do?
Well, that happened later. He had experiences like that, and people complained, and he, very quickly he lost his audience. As soon as somebody started yelling and screaming, nobody was interested.
Mm-hmm.
So he decided he would have a band. A little orchestra. He had a banjo. He had a drum and a trumpet. And he positioned these people around the dental chair. And if he saw there was going to be a problem, he just had them play louder.
Play Yankee Doodle Dandy quick.
They did, and they were really good at that because they also doubled as his technicians. So hey, guys, off the stage, time to do some dentures.
Wow. Now, I understand his career took a certain shift when he got to New York and ran into a fellow by the name of Bill Beebe.
Bill Beebe, yes. Now, Bill Beebe was an ex-Barnum Bailey man.
Uh-huh.
Now, Bill Beebe was 375 pounds. But this fellow was a trombonist. He did everything possible that you could do in a circus. And he had lost his job because of his weight. And so he started to work for a fellow, a landlord in the Brooklyn area of New York. That's how Painless got to meet him, because he had a small flat with a bedroom adjoining to his office space. And, he didn't make any money. He couldn't get any clients or patients to come to him. And every time he went to go to Bill Beebe to pay his rent, it was always late, and he didn't have enough money because he didn't have enough patients. Bill Beebe would lecture on him until finally Painless gave in and said, okay, you tell me what you want me to do, I will do it.
So Beebe's basically wants him to become a showman again,
and
right?
That's exactly what Beebe wanted. And so he started off by, great suggestions. First of all, he wanted to take and have signs painted on the walls of buildings. And, I'll give you an example of one of the signs and what it read. It was a sign that was about 20 feet wide and as long as the building was. And he loved the word P, so he liked the alliteration and liked the
letter
sound.
P, yeah.
Yeah. Painless Parker, prominent, par excellent, positively painless. And his buildings had these type of sayings on them all over.
Yeah, I'm looking at your book here now on page 201. You've got a bunch of smaller signs, and
Yes.
he really did go crazy with the letter P. He's proclaimed by public press and pulpit. Painless
Exactly.
Parker is positively perfect. Pains and pangs positively prevented. A pittance pays for permanent preservation. Pageants of pleased patrons pass and praise. Pause, people. Painless Parker is pronounced a paragon.
Whew.
That about covers it.
You did very well on that. I usually stop at the second sentence because I usually get the letters mixed up and my eye tooth gets in my way and I can't see what I'm saying.
You should see a dentist about that.
I really should. Do you know of any good ones?
No.
Oh, well, I've got a list.
So now, tell me a bit more about this. Once he hooked up with Beebe, obviously his career went off, and he became really quite flamboyant. Right?
Well, he really did. It just brought out the showman talent that was latent at that particular stage in Painless. I mean, they went to using a tightrope walker. For example, they hooked up a tightrope between his office in 124 Flatbush Avenue and the building across the street, and they had the person who was doing the walking dressed up in pink tights with all sorts of bangles and jangles on him, and he had on the end of his posts saying, "I'm going to." The pole he carried. I'm going to Painless Parker, and he said, "I've just been from Painless Parker, and he's painless." That they staged that at noontime, and it tied up traffic for an hour. But that was just a start, and he just continued. He used to stage performances, outdoor performances again, and this was early when he shortly after he arrived in New York, on the street corner, throwing money out to people, proclaiming the virtues of dentistry and why they should come and see him. his outdoor performances were truly outlandish.
Well, outlandish is the word for it. Art. There's a picture of Painless Parker in front of me here, and it shows him with a necklace made from 357 teeth he extracted in one day. Now, isn't that just a little bit rapid?
He had one in the patient's mouth, one in the air, and one in the bucket. And he had a bucket there to cool the forceps off.
And all this was painless.
But all this was painless. Well, I think we have to be somewhat skeptical about how painless he was.
I think we ought to, yeah.
Because there were times when it did hurt. And people got terrible infections. But, that really wasn't any different than dentistry being performed at that particular time.
So, Peter, is your sense, was he a half-decent dentist, or was he all showman?
No, he was a very good dentist, actually. From the reports that I have heard, his dentistry was no worse than dentists of the era. In fact, it was somewhat better because he was able to convince people and persuade people.
Well, he seemed to manage to convince the patients, all right, but I don't think the dentist establishment ever embraced him. They considered him an unethical charlatan. Did they ever get over that?
No, they never did. They just let him die, still being an outlaw. It wasn't until 1979 that there was a piece of legislation that came out of California saying that he had been wrongly treated. He died in 52, so it didn't do him much good in 1979.
Well, I'll tell you, Peter, you've got a fascinating read here. I'm not sure I'd want to be in Painless Parker's chair, but I'll take my dentist over him. But in any case, thanks very much for telling us about the book.
Well, you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure, Arthur.
Okay, bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye now, Arthur.
That's Peter Pronich, who, along with Arden Christen, has written The Early Adventures of Painless Parker.